Hi, this is Dave and welcome to The Table, a series of videos where I review and discuss various board and card games, looking at them from a family perspective. Today we're going to be previewing an upcoming project from Crazy Joe's Games called Monsters and Knights. In Monsters and Knights, it pits 2 to 6 players against each other, or you can play in teams, playing various monster and knight cards in an attempt to either eat each other or slay each other in an attempt to score some points. Throw in some unsuspecting villagers or the fair maiden in distress, and you have this really unique card playing game. Let's take a look at this game, how it's played, and I'll come back and I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, let's take a look at the components that come in Monsters and Knights, and there's going to be a 36 card deck in which you're going to be playing this game, and it's going to be filled with various types of monsters and knights, which I'll get to in just a second, as well as a couple other cards here. We've got a villager and a fair maiden, and there's going to be a dual-sided card here, day and night, that's going to control the day and the night phase. Well, let's take a look at these cards up close, and I want to be able to explain what each of them are. So we're going to start off with the monsters here, and I'll zoom in here so we can take a look at them. And so we have what's the bite-sized monster here, and he is worth 100 points, and he only has an appetite to eat blue knights. So he is kind of the weakest monster, and he'll only be able to eat the weakest type of knight. Next we have this mid-sized monster. He's worth 200 points, and he has not quite gotten an appetite yet for the red knight, so he'll be able to eat just basically the weakest and the not so strong knight. Then we have a supersized monster right here worth 300 points, which he'll be able to eat any kind of knight. And then we have this hungry monster, which he'll be able to eat any kind of knight, and even if it's during the daytime. And I'll explain what all of that means when I get to the gameplay. Now let's take a look at the knights over here, and we have a blue knight here who is he's worth 100 points, and he is in training, and he can only he can only slay a bite-sized monster. We have a black knight here who he is not strong enough to slay a supersized monster. And then we have the red knight. He's worth 300 points, and he can slay any sized monster. And then finally we have a monster slayer, and he may slay any sized monster even at night. Okay, and then we have a couple extra cards here. This is a fair maiden, and she's worth an additional 200 points, and during the game, when she comes out, a monster may choose to eat her rather than eating a knight, or a knight may choose to rescue her rather than slaying a monster. And then we have this other thing here, this villager, and he's kind of unique. He's worth a negative 100 points, and when you play him, it's kind of like bad news for the next player, because when you play him, if it's during the daytime, if you play him out, somebody's going to play a knight and is going to have to rescue him. Or if somebody plays a monster, it's going to eat a monster before eating a knight, because they are fast food. So these are the types of cards that are in the game, and I'm going to get that shuffled up, and I will show you how to play. Okay, I've gone ahead and I've set this game up for 3 players, and this game can be played 2 to 6 players. You can all be playing as individuals, or there is an option to play as teams with 4 or 6 players, with those players combining their points together in order to win. Now, the difference being with the team play is that teammates cannot be seated next to each other, so there has to be a staggered play, and they cannot look at each other's hands. So, for example, in a 4-player, it's a team game, players 1 and 3 would be teammates, 2 and 4 would be teammates, and then for a 6-player game, 1, 3, and 5 would be teammates, 2, 4, and 6 would be teammates, and then their scores would be, they would combine all of their slayed monsters and knights at the end of the round and score accordingly. So, and also the game is going to have a variable number of cards that are going to be dealt each player at the start, depending on how many are playing. So, for example, here, a 2 to 4 player game will be dealt a starting hand of 7 cards, and that's what I've done here. And this game that I'm going to demonstrate for you is going to be in the what they call casual mode. So each player has been dealt a starting hand of 7 cards. This player here will be the first player, and they will be able to determine the starting, if it's going to be day or night, which I'll get to in a second. Now, the cards that are left over in the game, there's a stack of them, and even with a 6-player game, these cards will all be dealt out with the exception of 1 card. There'll be 1 left over. And so we're going to take this card and we're going to flip the top one over, and this is going to be what's called the active stack for the monsters and knights for this round. So the rest of the cards will go off out of play. Now this player here, we're going to look at our opening hand and see what's going on here. We have a monster, a knight, another monster, and we have, looks like we have a bunch of knights and a few monsters as well too. So we're going to want to try and capitalize on some points. So what we're going to do is we will start off at the knight phase. So during the knight phase now, what's going to happen is anybody that plays a monster card will try to attempt to eat a knight and score it for points. And also there is this monster slayer who can slay any size monster even at night. So it's kind of useful as to how we can do specific things. So what we're going to do here is we will play a bite-sized monster right here. And on the text it says that he is a picky eater and will only eat blue knights. And there happens to be a blue knight here. And so what he's going to do is he's going to eat this particular knight, and it's going to go into his stack here for scoring at the end of the round. Now, the next player will in turn take their cards, and they will look here to see what they can do. And at night time here, now there is no knight for them to eat, so they're going to have to play. They could play a knight, but then they would be giving the opportunity for this player over here to potentially score points. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to play a mid-size or a bite-sized monster here in front of him. Now, since there's no knight here, this is going to go onto the active stack in the middle. So somebody else would be able to try and claim him. Now, if we look at this stack of cards here, and this player, we would like to see a monster slayer that's in here. But we really don't have anything that can do that. So we will play this villager card here. Now this villager, the way the villager works is that it's going to affect whoever the next player is, because if they play a monster, it's going to eat this villager first before anything else, or a knight will rescue it before anything else. So since this villager can't do anything right now, it's just going to go right on this center stack here. And that will be the end of that player's turn. Now what's going to happen is at the end of this turn here, this will flip over to the day phase. And since this card here survived, and this was probably not a really smart move from this player here to play this villager, because this survived and it's going to go right on top of the stack. So unfortunately that villager, his plan didn't work out according to how he wanted. So now it's daytime, and we're going to play out some knights that are going to want to try and slay some of these monsters. So for this one here, we've got a bite-sized monster. I could play this blue knight here, and then I would be able to slay this particular monster right here and score it for points over here. Now the next player is going to be in trouble, because now this villager is back on top of the active stack. And so he's going to automatically get something. So he's going to want to play a lower card here and play this blue knight. So this blue knight is going to end up rescuing this villager for a negative 100 points. And so he did his action. He stays here. This goes off to the side now here. And now we've got a bite-sized monster here that's on the top that we can play. Or if we play this hungry monster, we could try to score more points. But since there's only blue knights out, we're going to not keep him. We're going to keep him in his hand. So we're going to play it looks like a bite-sized monster, and I really don't have anything but monsters to play, so I guess I'm going to play this hungry monster here, and I will choose to eat one of these knights and score it. And so now it comes back to this player here. It's going to flip the knight. This is going to go on top of the stack, and this play is going to continue around until everybody plays out their hands, collecting various monsters and knights for scoring. Now, at the end of the round, the way to score is you're going to separate out your knights and your monsters, and you'll add up the totals, and whichever one has the greater amount between the knights or the monsters, that is how many points that you will score for that particular round. And so you will play until 5,000 points for a casual game. Now this game plays pretty quickly. So at the end of this round, once everything is scored, you're going to take all of the cards together. You're going to shuffle them up. The deal now will pass to the player to the right. They'll be in control of the night and day card. And so that is how you play Monsters and Knights in the casual mode. Now, one specific difference in the advanced mode is if we were playing a card here, for example, this blue knight is here, and now it's at nighttime. If we play one of these monsters, let's say, for example, here we play this mid-sized monster, he's going to slay this, he's going to eat this knight, and it's going to go under his card here now. So, again, it's at nighttime, so the only thing that we can do here now is if we play this monster slayer, because he can slay a monster at night, if he chooses to play this card, he will slay this mid-sized monster here. He'll take him here. Well, this knight here that was underneath him, he's already dead. He gets removed from the game. So the difference here now is that you actually have to wait until it is your turn again. You want to try and keep your card, the one that's you have placed underneath, to keep it in front of you in order to score points. So it's going to make the game more strategic in the advanced mode, because instead of scoring right away, you're going to have to wait to see how things play out for the rest of the game. So he played this monster slayer here. So now that might have worked pretty good, but somebody else can play a different monster. Maybe we'll play this mid-sized, well, this one will go on the stack here. We'll play this mid-sized monster, and he will eat this monster slayer. He'll get 100 points, and now that mid-sized one will go out. So you're going to really have to manage your hand to in order to score points in the advanced mode, because you're going to have to really look and see and anticipate when you're going to play. And so that is the variant for the advanced mode for Monsters and Knights. Okay, let's talk about Monsters and Knights, and let me start off with the artwork, which most of it is finished. And in the images on the cards, all of those images were hand sketched by an artist, so they were drawn out actually on a sketch pad or canvas, and then they were digitally uploaded and had some color added to them. So you've got this really kind of personal touch there from the artwork, because it's been hand drawn rather than designed digitally on a computer, and it has this like a comic book feel to the game. So it kind of gives you a little bit of like a story that unfolds during the gameplay, which lends a little bit to the theme. Now, the theme of this game being monsters and knights. If you notice, there's a lot of black in here, so it kind of gives the game a little bit more of an eerie feel, especially with the monsters being on the hunt, and so that kind of lends to the theme more that way. So that's the artwork for this particular game. Now, if we look at the gameplay here, there are two modes to play this game. You have the casual mode and you have the advanced mode. So you have a varying level of difficulty for this game. In the casual mode, there is not as much of a learning curve as there is in the advanced mode, and the learning curve comes from understanding the card mechanics and how to play, especially when it comes to the day and night phases. So the casual mode is a great way to learn to play the game, and the rounds will play a lot faster, so you can really get an understanding of how to play the game. Now, the mechanics of this game, there is that day and night mechanic, which makes this game unique that way. And it kind of establishes which cards will have the advantage, because in essence this game is a trick-taking game where you are trying to play the most powerful card in an attempt to score points. So you have that particular mechanic that's added into this game. Now you have a couple of cards that can be played to thwart somebody's plan, and those are the Villager and the Fair Maiden. The Villager is pretty much going to be bad news, because unless you're the last player, if you play the Villager, whoever plays the next card there is going to be forced to play a card they may not have been expecting to play that round, and they're going to be stuck with a negative 100 points. Now, in the gameplay, you saw the last player play the Villager card, and when it went on to the next player, he had a card that was still in place, so it went onto the stack, so he kind of got a bye on there, but the next player around, the Villager was back out, and so it can cause for an interesting mess for gameplay, which increases the amount of strategy that you have to use to play the game. Now, the Fair Maiden, you actually will have the option to be able to play her. When you play her, you have the option to save her or eat her. So it kind of depends on, at the time when you're playing, if it's worth it to get some extra points or not. So you have that particular kind of trick-taking aspect between the monsters and knights, and then you have those couple of extra cards that kind of thwart the gameplay plans for some of the other players. And again, you have the day and night phase that that kind of changes things from turn to turn. Now, again, this game has the ability to play in teams, so that adds a different element of being able to play this game. You have a couple of rules. The players cannot sit next to each other that are teammates, and they can't look at each other's hands, so they're going to have to get a feel for the game, and they're going to have to play off of each other to see what they're doing in an attempt to score points. And then at the end, when all the cards have been played out, all of those cards will be combined, and then they will be added up and scored accordingly. So you'll only have 2 scores, one for one team and one for the other, rather than a bunch of individual scores. So you have that option. And then finally, you have the advanced mode for this game, which increases the difficulty of gameplay significantly, because now when you play a monster or a knight and you either eat a monster or slay a monster or eat a knight, you have that card and it's placed under your active card, and so you actually have to wait until your turn all the way around. You have to wait for it to come around, and hopefully you still have that card underneath there in order to score some points. So it really makes strategy almost triple what you're going to have to do, because you are not only going to have to get a feel for how the game is playing, but now you're going to have to start thinking about what are these other players going to play out, and if they're going to want to try and steal your cards or not. So it really makes it, it really adds an extra element to make this game more difficult for more advanced players. So you have that scaling difficulty. So that's Monsters and Knights, a strategic card game, and if this game appeals to you and your playing style that you like in card games, you can go ahead and pledge your support to this project. I have the link below. It's on Kickstarter right now, and you can help to bring this game to life and add it to your library. Alright, that's it for now, and join me again next time as we take a look at another game and we see how it makes it to the table.